Woi, link. Apa,
Make them remember, Jason. Make them suffer. Deserve to die, Jason. Make them suffer. Make them remember, Jason. Make them suffer.
join with me playing Roblox? Let's go, baby. Let's go, man. Let's go join with me. Hey, man. Start following me, please.
Company, wherever you are watching this one. Carlos Sainz yet to go out there. He's not the only one. Just the nature of this being FP3, the two tyre sets, and the fact that the track is roasting and low grip means that we get to see half the field.
Sam Gardner's final racing flourish was to become a test driver for Tottenham Hotspur. To the Super League Formula. What a bizarre concept that was. Football teams as racing cars.
I've forgotten it.
Anyway,
did you say test drive?
didn't race, yeah, didn't even get the call up. On the bench for Spurs.
They've had a rough enough season last time. I don't know how many more paid to that. To Spurs fans watching. But yeah, God, that existed. So we've covered Zoltan Baumgartner and other short-lived championships, and now we're going to welcome the best drivers in the world to the racetrack, including two-time winner Max Verstappen, and I've got the feeling that Verstappen's going to be somewhere across the weekend if Red Bull can pull off their usual trick of making a big leap forward from Friday into Saturday.
They're close enough, aren't they? And again, Verstappen was mighty quick through the corners of Spa. He was the fastest man in the middle sector at Spa. Obviously, they're running very different wings to the sort of Spa-specific ones that a lot of the teams turned up with. And Red Bull have gone back to their Macarena rotisserie rear wing as well, so they're not even running the same spec that they had to go back to for Spa. But it shows that a lot of the other surfaces are working well for Red Bull through some long-flowing corners. Fairly different circuit, but again, they'd be a team that I'd say would be favouring some corners over straights. Mercedes would go the other way, and if you look at Verstappen's performance in Monaco qualifying, that echoes that as well. So I am expecting Max, possibly Isaac Hadjar, to be somewhere in the picture for qualifying later on. Russell. It means he's still got rear grip a little better than before. He's hanging on to it.
You can see how much time he's losing in those final two corners, but it is the fastest time for Charles Leclerc. Both Leclerc and Hamilton taking their last pole position around this circuit.
Leclerc there just unlocked a huge amount of pace in that middle sector, so that was where Ferrari were down and then having to claw something back in the final sector where they've been so strong. Martinelli across the line and actually does a great job in that final sector, so that is on a par with Leclerc there. So trading blows there through the sector.
He's George Russell into the first turn, another big lock-up. We're seeing many of them over the bump of turn one.
Every time the eye was picking between the Williams duo and it was Russell that was the one. I think that was the real smoke screen that we had.
There's so many drivers doing that. I think it was one of the Williams car. Running Stone as well. Russell currently in 8th place, is 6 tenths of a second away from benchmark set by Charles Leclerc. Antonelli 1 tenth away, Hamilton 3 tenths away, Norris 3 tenths away.
My money stays with Albon as Sainz continues on his soft tyre. Albon kicked it at the end of that one, so I reckon somewhere in the replay archives is an Alex Albon meaty lock-up. We've seen plenty of them down at this corner. Change of surface down at the braking zone. So a bit of a bump leads to a really difficult part where the tyres basically lift off the ground momentarily and then they lock, and it's really difficult to get the grip coming back again. Once you've had that initial lock, you're basically doomed to your fate on the start of braking line.
You know if it's Sainz going to the question about
I'm feeling confident.
He's punchy, everyone. 22 minutes to go.
Well, Sainz has just improved on his lap time. If he's on a soft tyre and he's had a lock-up that's big enough to cause a smoke screen for seconds back, that car is going back in the pits, where Albon is. So there is my detective work laid out for you.
I like it. Showing he's working. Jolyon Palmer. He's with us throughout the entire weekend. DC, Joe is Jolyon Palmer and myself for qualifying and the Grand Prix. DC joining us later on for what is set to be a really interesting qualifying, because it's not just going to be close through multiple teams, but you are so close to getting to this part of the lap, and then it all falls away, so you've got to watch to the very end of the qualifying. Let's go and check in with Juan Pablo Montoya for a view trackside now.
Hey guys, now I'm in turn 12. It's been really interesting to see how deep they go on the brakes. The Ferrari looks really solid. It's really interesting. The Ferrari has probably the best balance. They're agile, they can turn in, roll a ton of speed into turn 12 and get the exit. The Mercedes tend to have quite a bit of understeer when they go through the middle of the corner. On the other hand, the Red Bull, the front wants to follow like the Ferrari, but the rear can't keep up, so it seems a bit of a handful. Hadjar seems to be timing it a little better. It's being a little more conservative. Max is pushing like crazy, so it's been really interesting. And the gaps are so close, and you can tell how hard everybody's pushing. It's going to make qualifying so good to see. So, see what happens now, and we'll see who can really bring it on in qualifying. Back to you guys.
Thank you, JPM. Watching for us around the circuit, and watching right now, Lewis Hamilton attacking.
3 flies for Leclerc, 2 for Hamilton. So this is Lewis's response to his teammate sneaking his fastest lap time, and we cut back to Leclerc's response at the response coming through turn 5 and heading towards the driving centre chicane as we come back to see Gasly's response of the Ferrari's response.
Who's next? Who's next? Holt's going through turn 2. I want to see them all. Gasly has been chasing it along with Alpine so far this weekend. Highlight of his season, unquestionably. The 3rd place in Monaco, but he got eventually, as we get to the halfway stage, or around the halfway stage of the championship. He's hoping to improve things after a tough day yesterday.
The Monaco podium still feels like an opera, doesn't it? Gasly's podium that never was, that then was. Hadjar thought he had it. There was a time where Russell could have had it. Leclerc had it in the bag for a long time. But yeah, you think of the great job that Gasly was doing at that point of the season, week in, week out. He's still driving well, but Alpine are falling down a little bit. Pinto is a little bit more threatening to Gasly, and actually beats him to the final point at Spa. Gasly responds there, so that is the final response from Gasly up to 11th place.
Yeah, 120.4, just behind Hulkenberg. 20.3 and 1.7 seconds off the pace. George Russell was talking about brake pressure on the radio and not feeling that points of the track.
So he was, I said earlier on, he was braking very, very cautiously yesterday. So I wonder if Mercedes, with the suspension change, can soften the car, find a little bit more compliance, are able to find a bit more brake pressure and therefore slow the car down later and more aggressively to find lap time that way. Antonelli has done a good job, but he has said check the floor, so he is in there. And Mercedes were doing a little bit of work on the car, so he's obviously found a large curve somewhere on his travels. The Ferraris are out there, but they're not gunning for it right now. They're on a long run, so trying to just work out how to navigate that car with a bit of fuel. Because as you said earlier, that wasn't their best car yesterday. And we saw last year how it cost them the race. When they had pole position, it looked okay, but then it went away from them on the long runs.
Yeah, painful second part of the Grand Prix for Ferrari last year. It turned into a battle of two stopping Oscar Piastri against one stopping Lando Norris. Lando Norris holding on for a crucial point swing. If you consider he was 13 points ahead of his teammate by the end of the season. So that was shot Carlos Sainz catching the Williams up, and then it's going to leave us behind as we have the flowing parts. We had a yellow flag in the pit lane which cleared up. It was there for 3 minutes, so whatever issue has been dealt with by race control. Race control also told us earlier that Alex Albon was deep at turn 1. So congratulations to Jolyon Palmer, who is undefeated so far today.
Got to see it to believe it. Somewhere in there's an Albon lockup.
So it's coming to the end of the lap. We're talking about the driver market and the implications of the Aston Martin update working, keeping Fernando Alonso at the team. Doesn't go entirely to plan. By the way, the team were really happy with the initial data that they saw, called it promising. Drivers pleased with what they saw as well. Just a massive machine after being on the back row for so long.
It'd be great if they can have even if it's a slightly long shot of getting into Q2 this weekend. I still think the power unit is massively compromising them, and we shouldn't gloss over how far away Honda are as part of the package. You know, Adrian Newey and Honda should be a match made in heaven to come to Aston Martin and lead the team well funded to get back towards the front with a champion driver still. Newey's provided his part of the upgrades. There's more to come, and there's still plenty of work to do, which I'm sure Adrian will admit. But Honda, we're waiting for their part as well. So the season started really so horrendously for them that they couldn't even complete laps because the car was breaking itself, vibrating itself to pieces. They've got on top of the reliability. Now we need to see some performance, and that'll come for hopefully Zandvoort. As is, this isn't the most power-sensitive circuit, so they may even drive around it for qualifying later on and get something. We will see. Antonelli is not on a new tyre, according to our information. Others out there are Piastri, Hadjar and Norris, all on a new soft. Have you seen Antonelli out there on shiny softs? He's on a seriously quick first sector if he's on the unit.
It's a great first sector. We're back to the characteristic pushing to the limits here.
New softs confirmed for Antonelli. So yeah,
That makes more sense.
I think everyone else will be breathing a sigh of relief with that, because this is it's a fast lap coming in. Piastri beats his middle sector. We've got Hadjar and Norris out there as well. Norris isn't on a lap right now, so he must have bailed out of it straight away. Hadjar's on an out lap, so we'll see his next attempt. Here comes Antonelli.
Championship leader, fastest by 0.4 of a second. Getting to the end of the practice sessions, and Mercedes begin to show their hand. Antonelli finds himself top of the pile. It's now 0.2 of a second of his advantage over Oscar Piastri.
Russell is out there as well on a new tyre, so Mercedes sent their cars together. George, like Lando, has not started applying lap just yet, so they're doing an extra one round, maybe with a mistake or traffic or something. Verstappen also here on a new tyre, so this is quali sim time. The Ferraris wait, and we'll get the best of the track later on. And we will see what Max Verstappen can do. Hadjar's shown good pace so far, ahead of his teammate. A couple of attempts. Not a flyer as well on this one.
Norris going very nicely in the first sector of the racetrack. And we join him now on his way to turn number 4, and that is the best of the session so far.
Yeah, that was very quick yesterday. wouldn't put the lap together. That's his teammate up ahead who will stay to the right-hand side as Norris flashes through into driving centre chicane. On the edge of the rear coming around and right up to the grass as well as he tries to not put steering input on the exit of 7. Still got the rear where he wants it. Sometimes that can just spike the temperatures and you never get it back through this sequence all the way through a Lacey here, the right-hander of 11.
Up on Kenny Antonelli's time, but the key question across so many push laps, have you still got the tyres underneath you by the final 2 corners?
Oh, they're hurting. They are hurting those rears. He's put so much energy through them so far.
See the time ebbing away with every correction on the steering wheel, hanging on to it over the curb, and he is still fastest, but you can see how quickly a 0.2 of a second advantage can evaporate in the final 2 corners. Norris ahead by 400.
The final corner's ranked. It's absolutely ranked. You turn it in under driving, then you find a load of understeer, then you start to get on the throttle because you're feeling the rear grips there until that slews around as well, and you're fighting both axles with about 20% less grip than you've got anywhere else on the corner. The only way is to underdrive, but then of course you can easily go just too slowly, so to complete the lap, it is just such a riddle to get through here and not end up absolutely crashing around and losing a heat. Verstappen's through and it isn't super competitive. Russell's nowhere.
He's a second away from Lando Norris and a second away from his teammate. Fernando Alonso, personal best sector 1, personal best sector 2. Man who took his first Grand Prix win around this circuit in 2003 has crossed the line to go into 11th in 2026.
Yeah, Russell comes out of the final corner, so second away becomes 2/3 of a second away, but it's nowhere near where he needs to be, and I have to say, for all the cries for the last couple of weekends about straight line speed, it cannot be the big differentiator here for George. So Toto Wolff accepted in the end that there was something not quite right with his car at Spa, but he also said George's driving isn't quite there either, and that is how things stand right now with 11 minutes left of FP3. Russell has to find something more, and once again is having a tricky weekend.
George Russell, pole position here in 2022. His only front row start around the circuit by way of reference. He will be hoping to change that stat later on. It looks like he's really going to be quite close by the end. When he turns themselves up, you do still have the flat out sections down to turn 1, up to turn 4, but it is all about your performance and selling your mechanical grip in that final sector. It's going to be defining. Here's Lando Norris hanging on to it on the way to the fastest time.
Yeah, and just within track limits as well, which is going to be a bit of a bore on top of everything else for the drivers to deal with in qualifying. That was Piastri. The McLaren looks a little bit tail happy into 6th there, and there is a little bit of prevailing wind behind. It's a tricky one. You're on just a small brake, which can be towards the limit of rear locking there as well. The harder you hit the brakes, the more you've got braking on the front axle, the more that you blend off and move to the rear. So a couple of tricky phases there for the McLaren drivers. Norris was dancing on the edge and Piastri was dancing over the top of it. Leclerc, new tyres for him. Hamilton out there as well, and is just blasted past the line to start a flying lap behind.
Lance Stroll's gone up to 16th place. Limgard's not taken part in the session. Perez hasn't taken part in the session. Aston Martin will be dreaming of Q2. That's what they're looking for. They have to get through the sprint qualifying session so far this year, but it ended in New York for Fernando Alonso. So that's what they're looking for. This is Charles Leclerc, main picture. Lewis Hamilton left-hand side. Hamilton 300s up on Lando Norris. Not Charles Leclerc's greatest lap of this race.
Middle sector, he put in that one middle sector that was rapid earlier on. Apart from that, there was that deficit. The final sector's always been very strong. So just kind of attacking in the picture on the left-hand side there with a sharp front. And again, Leclerc's final sector is mighty there. Norris's wasn't his best, but I wonder if Hamilton's within range here, just 4/10 away from Norris. 3 corners to go, but the Ferrari's so quick through these corners.
Hamilton led the way with a change of line in that 40th and final turn. Moving around too much through 30, a bit of a shallow line, tight to the barrier compared to other years where he'd hang it out wide and roll the power through, and Hamilton goes fastest. And there's your reference for qualifying later on. Ferrari can haul in an enormous margin in that final sector where their car has the balance and the grip. And if Lewis Hamilton does that later on, he'll be the first driver in the history of Formula One to take pole position 10 times at a single venue.
Controllable. Open with the traffic or the car, but not happy with the car there, Badger, taking a lot of speed into 12 and not able to get that slowed down at the rear, stepping up. Can Norris do a better job through the final sector this time around? Certainly looked cleaner.
And he goes back to the top. McLaren versus Ferrari, updated McLaren up against Ferrari. Norris, the winner of the Grand Prix last year, up against the best driver of this circuit statistically. 8-time Grand Prix winner Lewis Hamilton. And it's nearly out there on an out lap as well. Welcome back to the front. McLaren, that update working well.
Yeah. Norris was half a second down on Hamilton in the final sector. That improved the temp, was 3 tenths down on Hamilton in the final sector. The middle sector, he improved on his own personal best. So the McLaren working well. I wonder if the Ferrari being a little bit slow and passive through the middle actually gives them some tyre to play with in the final corners. Almost like it could be a bit of a trade-off for them when you see how settled their car is through the trickiest corners on the circuit. And for Hamilton, it allowed him such a big run to hit the top. Russell goes again on the second flying lap. His day's not getting any better. His year's not getting any better at this rate. Antonelli's out there on an outback and will improve again, or try and improve again shortly as well.
Russell with an improvement in the middle sector, working the wheel in the final part of the lap, and he goes over the line. That is a personal best in the session, but he remains in 6th position.
He's 3 tenths down on this man's opening gambit. So Norris improved on a second flyer on the new tyres. Russell's found a little bit as well. What of Antonelli? Squeezing on the gas, going round his teammate. The entry to turn 2 is actually quite passive there. He dives in quite early and then just waits to strike line off the exit a little bit more than others who let it run through the exit of Lewis Hamilton corner.
He's rated through 5. Colapinto's improved up to 13th place. The chicane is next.
Curve reference for the Mercedes. Bash! Straight over the top of turn 7. Quite get the rotation, and again you can see applies loads of steering lock through 9 and just has to wait for the front to bite. It's not putting a huge amount of stress through the rears at that point, so that is the benefit. 2 tenths down, personal best in the middle. What's he got in the final sector there? Starts to go a little bit wide on the exit as you're applying throttle. Rear tyres overheating, but in having a car that's set up for more understeer, I think Antonelli's got a little bit of tyres there into this horrible final turn. Not quite as horrible for most of that.
Improves his time, not his position. Exactly the same as his teammate. He remains where he was, but that is his personal best of the day on a 1:18.068. Antonelli rolling a little bit more speed into that final corner as well, compared to the likes of Norris and Hamilton paying for it on exit.
So Norris back in the pits having done 2 flying laps. Leclerc is out there. Hamilton, you can see it on an out lap as well. Leclerc was starting a flyer and is back out of it in the first sector, so we'll see if he goes again with less than 5 minutes on the clock now. Just come through the pit, so a little front wing tweak or something for the Ferrari man. This is going to be Leclerc with a lock up at the first turn, and maybe why he didn't push on. So that the bingo. So easy to do. Release the brakes so quickly as well. I think the driver's pretty aware there is a little flat spot on that, but it might still be a usable tyre for sure.
Hadjar set a personal best, remained in 8th position. Lewis Hamilton is the driver in your picture at the moment. Charles Leclerc was offered a chance for a wing adjustment. And Lewis Hamilton has that rotating rear wing element open, and then it closes. And the team call the 3 elements directly in front the castle. So there's all sorts of nicknames being given to to the rear wing as Hamilton tries to improve upon Norris's time.
I see no relevance to a castle there, but
They called it the Macarena, they've called it the castle.
we'll go with it. We'll go with it. Like we'll go with Nokia Road corner. The Lewis Hamilton comes through at turn 5 before heading up to driving centre.
You're not using driving centre in qualifying.
Oh, he's off the driving centre.
Lewis Hamilton goes off the road at driving centre and he finds himself with no chance to improve. Charles Leclerc, first part of the lap, 500ths away. The middle part, he's not been having too much fun. All the Ferraris trading off, just running smoothly, conservatively maybe, if you can do that in Formula 1, to have the tyre temperature where it needs to be in the final 3 corners. You just see miles off of that second sector. Let's see if he can claw some of it back. He's 4/10 of a second away from Norris.
If he's 1/10 better off than Norris in this final sector, will improve on his own personal best then. It's possible with Ferrari's pace at the end of the lap. It's like a danger sign for everyone else in qualifying. He doesn't manage it this time, so the grip not coming there for Leclerc. He did have the big lock up on his second attempt. We've seen so many of those oversteer moments on the initial turn-in. For turn 6, Alex, would you rather that?
Yeah, perhaps. Perhaps. In the final moments of Q3, I think that might be the way to go. Into Schumacher corner we go with Arvid Lindblad, who has managed to get out there on the racetrack. We'll have a chat afterwards with the production team. I think it might interrupt the drama of the session if you're tracking driving centre corner, as the British driver having a great rookie season comes across the line, 14th fastest. Just importantly, the team have fixed that, and he'll be trying to shoot for Q3 once again. Ollie Behrman not with the performance in his ass at the moment, and once more, incredible run of drivers finding improvements on the timing page, but staying exactly where they are. Carlos Sainz down to 20th position. This is painful for Williams, considering where their expectations were, considering that Sainz was on the podium, the penultimate Grand Prix. I still don't quite understand how he did that. Again, another race where we're focusing a lot on the drivers' title battle. They won't put a Williams on the podium at a track where they were hoping at the time just to get through into Q3. And remarkable, obviously structurally effective race, and everyone pitting at the same time apart from the crash, but it was still surely one of his best ever drives, which is some sense to be a 4-time Grand Prix winner. Carlos Sainz, 18th position for the Williams team. He improves at least up there. Alex Albon was saying they're wearing the Aston Martins up. They're taking them into the next part of qualifying, and what that would mean for them, pretty much being able to guarantee all season long 2 Cadillacs and 2 Aston Martins falling at the first hurdle of qualifying. Been an eventful session for Liam Lawson. He's been off the road a couple of times. Sainz has had his time deleted. For turn 4, running beyond there, and across the line goes Liam Lawson with no improvement to his position on the timing.
Drivers are going to have to be a little bit careful with track limits in qualifying. We've seen it a few times. I don't think it's a big advantage necessarily, but you can complete a lap still, bouncing over some curves.
Norris was right on the brink, wasn't he? Fighting it. Not by design, but fighting it. Could carry you over turn 14. The white line there. That did happen to Alex Albon earlier on.
Yeah, it wasn't quick for Norris doing that, but it was still millimetres from going over that, so it doesn't matter if it's technically slower. If you cross the line, you cross the line, as Hadjar does for the final time in this session, to go 8th place.
Arvid Lindblad having spent most of his session in the garage, waiting for the team to change the power units.
Shocked for him to get that done, actually. That's amazing. I'm shocked to see Lindblad out there in this session. Great work from Racing Bulls.
White flag for the slow cars on the inside.
Maybe it was that. Maybe my eyes deceive me as Lindblad continues and at least gets a feel for the trickiest corners of the circuit. soft tyres, he's done one flying lap already, so here he comes to cement his learnings for the session.
Let's see where he can go. Splits the Alpines. That is a strong job for the Racing Bulls, having a strong season. They are absolutely level with Alpine going into this, the 11th round of the year. Looks wide open for qualifying, but it's the world champion who's back at the top of the timing page. Lando Norris fastest after P3. Hamilton in second, Antonelli in third, Charles Leclerc, Piastri, Russell ahead of the Red Bulls. Verstappen ahead of Hadjar, top 10 completed by Lawson and Hulkenberg. Here's the four-time champ down to turn one with another lock-up for the collection.
Join the club. Qualifying is going to be so easy to just destroy a set of tyres and destroy a chance of going through. There's a track limit.
Check the car. I destroyed the black in for it.
Yeah, could be. We'll check it. Good on that one, Carlos. Easy to do that as well at 4. So what the jeopardy is everywhere. So Lawson drifting it through the exit of I'm not going to try and say that one, the turn 14 corner. And then the smokiest of lock-up so far for Franco Colapinto. So I had an idea. You know how corner names always sound better in Italian? You've got Acqua Minerale at Imola. If you call that mineral water,
I'm not sure that would work.
laughable.
No,
Variante Alta. All of those. So I had a quick look at what driving centre would be in Italian. So if we just become Italian for that part of the lap. Centro de Guida. I don't think it helps us out really, unfortunately.
You might try Spanish later on. You might try that.
Try all the languages, yeah.
It's going to be a fan favourite, isn't it? Let's be honest. Driving centre chicane 6 and 7. That's Lewis Hamilton with his distinctive launch off the line. He's right in the mix of pole position later on today.
Centro de Conduction.
Better. We're heading in the right direction. Lando Norris is fastest at the end of our 3 practice hours. He's ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Has an amazing record around this circuit. Back in the fight for pole position. The circuit where he took his last one. This is the 14th and final turn. Oh, huge amount of oversteer, but that's not as bad as we've seen for others.
That's good through the final turn. If you can commit with entry speed, start to pick up the throttle, have a moment, but actually be able to catch it without failing completely back out of the throttle, that's good for the final turn, and that is why Lewis Hamilton is the fastest man in the final sector. But Ferrari are not the fastest car over the lap now, Lando Norris. And Greg Vasseur said yesterday, beware of Lando, because he was quick, he just didn't piece it all together, and he has done a much better job of doing that, especially on the second lap, to go top, McLaren with up, it's looking a threat. Mercedes with a lot of work to do.
To continue their clean sweep of the Grand Prix poles, it's the world champ who's back at the front. All smiles. Predicted confidently McLaren would win a Grand Prix before the end of the season. He's had that one opportunity up against Kimi Antonelli. The strategy was built in a different way. He easily have won that race. As he's back and say goodbye to that set as he tests how much he can attack pit entry.
He wasn't chuffed at the end to be taking a new power unit component, a new battery for Spa, was he? Having qualified third, but it'll be better there than it is here with the performance that McLaren showed.
Last year's winner in the fight, and it is going to be a fight between different teams. McLaren versus Ferrari versus Mercedes in a couple of hours' time to decide the major places. With the drivers having to work so hard behind the wheel. It's been a great watch for 3 practice hours. Lando Norris finishes top of the pile at the end. Lewis Hamilton in second, Kimi Antonelli in third. Then comes Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri. George Russell searching for performance on the brakes is in P6. Max Verstappen ahead of Isaac Hadjar. And it's Liam Lawson ahead of Nico Hulkenberg for Audi in 10th position. Next up, the second Audi of Gabriel Bortoleto. Pierre Gasly, other than that, had to wait a while to get out there. He only did 6 laps.
He's in P13, then it was Franco Colapinto ahead of Esteban Ocon, Oliver Behrman in 16th, and then it was Alonso, Stroll, Bottas and Sainz, the top 20. Albon in 21st, and Sergio Perez had an issue that saw him roll out of the pits and stop at turn 2. I thank Julian for all of his insights, and for the insights of Juan Pablo Montoya, trackside, and Ruth Buscombe down in the pit lane. Laura Winter, it is wide open in the battle for pole position. Bring it on.
Oh, it really is, Alex Jakes. Thank you to you and Jolien for talking us through that one. I'm thoroughly enjoying how much Jolien is enjoying naming each and every single one of these corners here at the Hungaroring. It's a beautiful day in Budapest. That day will continue because qualifying looks so exciting if FP3 was anything to go by. Now, to talk us through all that we've just seen in FP3 and to build up to qualifying, we have James Hitchcock, Ruth Buscombe and Lawrence Barretto alongside me. So we've had a Ferrari quickest in Charles Leclerc, another Ferrari quickest in Lewis Hamilton. We now have defending world champion Lando Norris in an upgraded McLaren, 5 upgrades on that car. Stick it P1 in FP3. I am loving this, James.
Well, it's so good to see. It's so good to see that another team's up in the mix, another team's leading a free practice. The upgrades on that car clearly working well, but I mean, it's not coming easy. Really having to work for it, which is actually more fun for us to watch. I mean, hanging on to it through that last sector, especially the last corner, just getting it done. But, you know, the other teams responded. He doubled down. It wasn't like it was one and done. It wasn't like some of the top drivers didn't get their laps in. Really, everybody got a chance on those soft tires. So this is an honest run so far, and it's great to see so many cars in the mix.
0.117 was the gap to Lewis Hamilton, plus 0.129 to Kimi and Antonelli, and then Leclerc 3.5 tenths back. Is this going to be the case in qualifying? Do we have a 3, dare I say 4 team fight for pole if Red Bull get involved, Ruth?
Well, I think the biggest upgrade McLaren had overnight is that it's less windy right now, because that car's sensitive and wind, and the area who's struggling was that turn 6, 7, 8, 9, where now he's pretty fast. So I think they need to do some kind of weather dance, because I think if it's like this, they can bring it to the Ferraris. What that car is amazing at is keeping the tyres into the right window. Actually, on Nando's first run, he lost all of it on tyre 10 after turn 12. Then the second run, he was able to adjust. Lewis Hamilton, Sir Lewis Hamilton, 8-time winner around here, his braking in sector 3 is just sublime. It's phenomenal. But it looks to me like the Ferrari and the McLaren are going more for the quali pace, and actually the Mercedes and the Red Bull are going more for race pace. And if anything, that Red Bull looks like they deliberately went for a slightly slower car in qualifying to gain race pace.
But this is very hard to overtake on here, isn't it? And yes, it can be decided on strategy, whether it's a 1 or a 2, but actually qualifying seems really important here, Lawrence. Are Mercedes gambling too much then on race pace?
Possibly. I think that the pace for all the drivers really out there is no one really got a super clean lap. So I think from the Ferrari side of things, then Lewis or Charles put their best foot forward. Lando looked probably the most comfortable of those top runners early doors. We didn't really talk much about Red Bull, and then with Mercedes, I think it was that split that we've seen all year long, where Kimi seemed to be able to get the pace out of the car a little bit sooner. He just seemed to dance a car that wasn't quite comfortable out here better than George did. And George just felt like he was back in that world of pain that we saw maybe 4 or 5 races ago, where he couldn't quite get what he wanted out of that car. We haven't got a long left until qualifying, but I think what it does mean is, you know, whether the wind picks up or it doesn't, what the conditions are like, it's dusty out there. It's all going to come down to who does the best lap out there, and I think that's brilliant when you've got 3 different teams in the top 3 places. I think it's set up really nicely.
I am so excited for qualifying here, and like I said, it is important, isn't it? Red Bull, where do you think they're at? Hard to say.
It is hard to say, but yeah. Look, this is not necessarily a track that suits them because of the bumps. I mean, with this generation of car, they were hoping some of that weakness in bumps and curb riding would be taken care of. Yeah, Pierre Vacher say that's really not the case. It sort of followed them over. The aero map on this car is pretty peaky, meaning they have to run it a little bit more stiff to kind of keep it in the right aero window. You've got a bumpy racetrack. Drivers have been complaining about that. A few curb strikes that you have to use here in some of those chicanes, driving center being one of them, or centro, whatever it was Jolien was saying. And so some of the weaknesses from previous generations of Red Bulls, you're still seeing it here. So I do think, you know, you never count out Max Verstappen, certainly, but as we've gone through now 3 free practices, I'm thinking less and less that they're going to be able to fight for pole position.
Which is a shame, because I know the team were looking forward to this racetrack, thinking it could suit Ruth.
I think it's tactics. I think they've looked at it and said, our best case is P5 in qualifying. We put absolutely everything together. We can't hold a light to the guys. So, Max, you do your thing. You only have to go over the bump in quali. You don't even have to go near it in the race. We're just going to give you a car that's stiff anyway. Give you a tough time on Saturday. I bet it was probably from Max himself. And then on Sunday, maybe we've got the best car for degradation across the stint. Maybe we're the only team that makes the race work. You have to be bold here. Not stupid, but bold works very well at Hungary.
All a line between bold and stupid. That is a fine one to tread, isn't it? I think we all know that. Let's talk Arvid Lindblad. How well did the team do to get it out, considering, Ruth, as you saw from the pit lane, car up on kind of stands, and it had tape around it. Just explain that.
It was a precautionary power unit change, and I'm not a mechanic, and I'm not an engine engineer. 1 hour 45 is a good one. 2 hours left. Great job by the team, and so calm. And what I love is actually Allright. He's in the garage, headset on, following with all the data. And I love the little smile in the corner of his face when his teammate put it in P8, because yesterday they were the fastest midfield team. And I think he had that kind of mindset. I'm so impressed by him, of being like, I'm going to focus on my job, let the power unit engineers focus on theirs. And I'm impressed. I hope he gets a Q3 and it rewards him and the whole team that stayed up late, breaking curfew, no penalties, used their second joker.
Yeah, fabulous job by Racing Bulls. And yesterday, Arvid Lindblad saying, I really want to make Q3. Is it possible for Racing Bulls, based on what you've seen, Lawrence?
I think they're under threat from Audi, because I think Gabriel Bortoletto, Nico Hülkenberg looked very strong in that session, and actually all over the course of the weekend so far. Gabriel Bortoletto obviously brings in that momentum that he's had, 2 back-to-back points finishes. They look good out there, very comfortable from the first lap. Audi have kind of struggled to really knit those 3 practice sessions together very well this year. So it's quite a cool battle really between Racing Bulls and Audi. This is the first time in a while we've seen a few niggles for Racing Bulls. You know, to have those PU issues with both cars coming into today isn't ideal for them. Liam Lawson's got the upgrade, so I think it's great that he's making the most of that and doing a good job again. So I think it could be quite a nice tight battle between the two.
And once again, we saw running disrupted by a red flag, this time for Sergio Perez, which is a shame. The rear brakes at one point on fire. We saw that in Austria last time. We had some very hot running. What was happening in the Cadillac garage?
Well, I mean, I think a bit of head scratching, to be honest. This one was quite weird. You heard him come on the radio. If you just listen here, the RPM start to drop, and then everything just locks up. You see, he does a great job to keep it out of the wall, grabs the clutch. Maybe he says maybe engine, maybe it's a brake failure, because you did see the rear brake smoking. It's kind of tough to know exactly what that was.
Yeah, we're inferring here, which is the engineer word for guess, with some I think it was the power unit, just from that sound of the revs dropping, and then it looked like after that, and actually I saw the car as the guys were wheeling it back down. I can actually keep up with them, they're doing such a fast job. The car looked great in terms of nothing was broken physically on the car from the outside. So again, well done to Checo for keeping it out of the wall, because a less experienced driver or a less talented driver might have made it more of a problem if you do have to change the power unit. 1 hour 45. Let's go.
Yeah, time ticking for Cadillac, and of course they're under pressure, aren't they, from Aston Martin, who are bringing those upgrades. Where will they end up in qualifying? We'll be looking ahead to it in just a few moments here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Well, for those of you with us here on F1 TV, let's take a look at the schedule and when FP3, which you've just seen, was, and when qualifying is. So, Norris Cricket, then we've got 3:25 for your pre-qualifying show, a 4 p.m. start for qualifying itself, and then the post-qualifying show, that comes straight after that back of the pole. And I tell you what, it looks wide open. 10 to 2 for the pre-race show, 3 p.m. start for the Hungarian Grand Prix itself, and the post-race show with all of your analysis straight afterwards. Okay, let's take a sneak peek at some more content coming on F1 TV for you this weekend. Here is Alex Albon and James Vowles.
I think we've done 79 races together, so James obviously done a team in 2023.
Do you want to take a guess at how many races I've done? We have less triple the number though. Two, no, because I know people have been 300 and they're a lot older than you. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's a compliment. 200, so you're thinking of 300. 250. 250.
I'm going to say 290.
It's about 400.
No way.
And 42. Oh my God, your air miles, you must be passing them over, but doesn't that make you feel young now again? It does.
Oh, wonderful. I can't wait to see see that one through the course of this weekend. Plenty more for you to enjoy on F1 TV. Scan the QR code there. Cool down room, Jolyon Palmer's analysis, Chasing the Dream, Tech Talk, and Porsche. All of that to enjoy on F1 TV. Plus, of course, a Verstappen interview, Albon and James Vowles, and Dan Tauris. All to enjoy on F1 TV. Right, welcome back to the paddock. It's time to continue to reflect on FP3 and what will be, we think, a wide open battle for qualifying itself. The wind's beginning to gust up a little bit more than it has been. What are we expecting, James?
Well, look, it's been super difficult for drivers anyways already this weekend. I think what's been a big surprise is the track evolution really hasn't been what we were expecting. The amount of dust and dirt we've seen continuing to be on the racetrack, I think it's catching a lot of these teams out. You think of lower grip conditions, that doesn't favor, in the inter-team battles, George Russell over Kimi Antonelli. It doesn't favor Oscar Piastri over Lando Norris. I think that's playing into this a little bit. If the wind does pick up, it's already been incredibly difficult. That's just going to add another element of these challenges. Track limits are going to be something you got to watch out for. That bump in turn 1 is going to be something you have to watch out for. That last turn entry is going to be something everyone has to look out for, especially if it ends up being a tailwind into there like it did yesterday. So this is kind of like Lauren said, this is about executing. There's a handful of cars and drivers, I think, that can be on the pole, be on the front row, but it is going to be down almost to who makes the fewest mistakes.
Filthy conditions out there, Ruth. As a strategist looking at this one, bearing in mind this is a track where it is difficult to overtake and track position is going to be crucial, what is the game plan between now and qualifying starting?
Tactics and execution by your driver. So all of our front runners, they've only got 4 soft tyres. They're all going to want to have 2 brand new shiny red ones when we get to Q3 for the pole shootout, because it is jeopardy out there. You can't guarantee your lap isn't even going to get ruined by somebody else going off and making a yellow flag. So we're going to see proper tactics in Q1 and Q2 with the cut-off. We haven't seen it in the last 3 years because the gaps between the field were so small, but they're going to have to try to get through on a used tyre, whilst the midfield try to beat them by using a lot of the new tyres. And who is bold but not stupid, who can get the lap in and can make it easier for their strategist.
Two boys getting that up close and personal, it's not ideal. To be honest, I think Fernando did a good job there to kind of realise that Lance probably hadn't seen him when they were getting too close. There didn't look like there was too much damage out there, but it was good to see Lance, to be honest, getting out there, getting a few laps under his belt, and actually putting in a pretty competitive time, given he only had 11 laps on the board from yesterday. So actually, I think Aston Martin looked pretty decent to be getting into Q2 today, and that would be a big step forward for them, wouldn't it?
Okay, are Aston Martin going to make Q2? And how much of that is a litmus test of this car, of where they're at, of new era here?
Yeah, again, they've always said this is phase 1, not just of the upgrades, but also of understanding them and maximizing the potential of them. I say one of them makes it out.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm a massive Newey fangirl. I literally did engineering here. But I believe, the low-speed corners are phenomenal. I spoke to Fernando last night, and he didn't seem to be bothered by the car in turn 6 and 9, where much faster cars are struggling. Solid aero platform. They're going to use 3 sets. They're going to have another crack at it. If anyone can do it around here, I think it's going to be Aston Martin. I want to see them try. I want them to.
Yeah, it looked like Fernando and Aston have closed the gap again, actually, into FP3, into the leaders. So I do think he's in good shape to do that. And the fact that Lance was able to get up to speed so quickly, actually, in that session, bodes well for at least one. I might even say both of them. So you've got teams like Williams are struggling at the minute. We're not quite sure what Cadillac are up to as well. And I know that obviously means 2 more spots. But actually, when it's so close out there and the wind is picking up and mistakes are happening, I honestly think they've got a good shot at it.
Oh, thank you, guys. Do you know, this could be a wide-open qualifying. Make sure you come back and join us 3:25 for your pre-qualifying show and a 4 p.m. start for qualifying itself. We will see you then.
For the 40th time in Formula One history, welcome to the Hungarian Grand Prix. Mr. Allen making his way round. Third place finisher in the Formula 2 Championship a couple of years ago.
So no Franco Colapinto in the session either, as Aaron gets another chance. Hirakawa's had so much mileage now, hasn't he? Probably he's got to be the third driver with the most mileage now in Formula One. He's out there again in the Haas. No Ollie Behrman in this session, so he'll be watching on, hoping that Hirakawa can do a good job. And I am interested to see what Colton Herta can do as well in the Cadillac. So he's in place of Valtteri Bottas.
Fernando Alonso in the vastly updated Aston Martin. On track for the first time. He was talking about it when it came to the presser yesterday. He believes that Adrian Newey is going to design the best car in the field given time. And he believes that Honda are going to do the best power unit given time. Does he have that time left? Either way, he's assessing what he's got underneath him as he tries to go racing effectively for the first time this season.
That is a dirt trap on the outside of the final turn that Lewis Hamilton found himself oversteering through speedway style. It's not in a great nick. Right, he's the most exciting driver, I think, of the five that we've got. No disrespect to the others, we've seen plenty of them, and they're all decent peddlers. But Borderoli is a Formula 2 champion. He's not managed to get himself on the grid. We spoke to Ryo Komatsu a few races ago, who tested him in the Haas, and said he was very impressive. So let's see, as we hop on board with number 67, Leo Fornaroli, and see what he can do in this session. McLaren last year gave Alex Dunn a great opportunity to showcase what he could do, and hopefully they'll give the same to Fornaroli, who started this session pretty well as he heads towards turn 2.
Sainz driving erratically has been noted by race control. You are flat through 3, and this is always an exciting corner.
He's looking a bit on edge. Lots of steering inputs going on here for Fornaroli as he's hunting the grid. The pace is obviously pretty good, 10th down. He's not got confidence. I mean, understandably, this is his second flying lap that we're on here. Third flying lap. He's searching for that little bit of grip and lots of steering inputs going in rather than letting the car flow when you know where it's at. It looks greening as he's joining the dots.
Thompson surrenders, and the car is jumping like crazy. I'm really bad jumping on the front axle, like really bad.
If you had 1:41, that's the time that Max would complain about downshifts this week to his team, congratulations. You win FP1 bingo. Over the line goes Leo Fornaroli. Max Verstappen always likes the exact feeling with the downshifts. I think we've heard this across the course of the last decade, haven't we, on the team radio?
Well, it was interesting having Callum Nicholas with us for Belgium, who said he was in the garage for the glory years of Max, and it was always just something they never cared too much about that in the garage as a pointer for if it was going to be a good or bad weekend. And especially at the start of the weekend, where you hear it, because they're trying to dial in the engine brake settings, so you're getting, as you go down the gears, you're getting a blip of throttle to sink some gear shifts in. And if you have that a little bit too high, you're getting engine braking, you're getting instability at the rear. So what Max doesn't want is instability at the rear, but of course you want the deceleration, and you don't want it to be pushing into the corners either. So it's always on a bit of a balance there, and it's something that Max is particularly sensitive of with the way that he enters corners.
Unusual sight of Ferrari in front of Ferrari there, and a bit of frustration for Charles Leclerc. It's getting a bit heated down there in the Italian garage. It feels like this. He was not pleased to find his car blocked by Hamilton.
The car feels pretty bad. Very poor. Is my front or rear or both?
Roll stiffness, too stiff.
Understood.
P1 and 2 for Ferrari, car feeling pretty bad. So you can imagine what everyone else is feeling out there at the moment. There's good feedback from Hamilton. The roll stiffness is too much. That means you're bouncing around a lot more. You're feeling the stiffness of the curbs and the bumps, of which there are a few in this old circuit. But you get a nice aero platform by doing that. The more you soften off the car rolls around in tiny details, as Hertz is going to display one of those bumps just on the braking point for the first turn. As a big double lock-up.
Alex Albon over the bumps, locking up. Slightly more spectacularly than we saw from Colton Herta, which was displayed the moment we finished describing the bumps. And the Williams found with a gigantic flat spot.
Verstappen, 1 corner to go. Everyone's struggling a lot with rear grip, particularly at the end of the lap here. We're putting a lot of load through, lots of combined exits. We're trying to squeeze on the gas still with loads of accelerating to do. Verstappen comes through half a second quicker. Norris was on a lap. Let's find out what happened to it. He's come back through the pit.
Lovely section of the racetrack. Sweeping stuff here. Wide, wide, wide over the curve, but turn left.
So he was quick through the first sector. In fact, he has the fastest first sector of anyone. But, oh, I won't thank him for that. Whoa. And again.
Shopping trolley.
We've got one more.
Shopping trolley stuff for Aaron to the final corner. It just would not grip up.
That final turn, it looks so difficult for everyone. Yeah, again, you can see the rear end of Hulkenberg as well starting to move around. You've got to be cautious on the way into that. The asphalt there in the final turn, I think, was just not rubbering in, and it's becoming very tricky for everyone. Well, there's the asphalt not rubbering in, and then there's the dirt track on the outside of it, and that's what Aaron found.
Bit of speedway on the outside of the final turn of this racetrack at 14. This is the first turn, and a lock up for George Russell.
It's a bump, and it's the stiffness there of the Mercedes. You just see it just hop over the bump there, which came just after the initial press of the brake.
And there is Lance Stroll pulled to the side of the road.
Well, Stroll had just been told to push. The car was in race mode, and at the start of this lap, he was told to push as hard as he can, so we'll see what happens. Well, that's pretty clear. Failure of the suspension, and that is a new suspension on that car. Let's see what happens.
3-2.
Oh, no, it's
really lucky boy, it was turn 2, not turn 4.
Yeah, and even then, good job. Look how close the barrier is there. And he's done well, actually, to sort of overcorrect it the other way, rather than purely be pitched in on the left-hand side. So, just purely accelerating, putting load through the tyres. Loads of drive going on the rear axle, up through a couple of gears, and front something gone.
That is Carlos Sainz with another lock-up, but he's basically come to a complete halt. When he gets out of there, have a look at the state of those front tyres. We talk about flat spots across the entire year. These are so pronounced if you have a lock-up at the first turn.
So this Williams was running low. He's running stiff. What if Williams have got an actual issue here? Because that is bizarre from Sainz as well, just to now have all 4 wheels locked up. He's an established driver that, Fornaroli's managed to get off the brakes and carry on through. So the Williams drivers, it seems when they do lock up, it's almost like the brakes just seize, and now they're just stuck on until the car comes to a halt there for Sainz.
That's a big problem.
Copy box. Trundling back to the pits. He's made it past the control lines. The team can recover him from there. Not the way that the P1 man wanted to end the session.
And you heard that was transmission, wasn't it, all day long?
Over the line we go for FP1. Charles Leclerc finds himself with the fastest time. Max Verstappen P2, and third is Lewis Hamilton. Hajar in 4th, then it's George Russell P5, Gabriel Bortoleto was in 6th, then it's Vesti, Hulkenberg, Lindblad and Lawson. And then we get to Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso. Pierre Gasly was in 14th, and it's Albon, Fornaroli, Hirakawa and Perez. Aaron in 19th, and then Colton Herta was in 20th. The final 2 in the order, Lance Stroll, who had a suspension failure, and Carlos Sainz, who had a mega lock-up towards the end of the session.
Russell there looked way neater than most through that final turn, and he jumps up the order to 4th place, but still, I mean, that's not Russell's best final sector yet. He's miles away from Hamilton, so I think they're starting to get clean ups on the board, but by being really cautious now on the limit.
Red flag is out. Frankie Colapinto in the barriers. We will not get to see the end of the lap for Kimi Antonelli. Driver from Argentina reporting that he's okay and finding his way to the wall. Here we go, 14th and final turn. Someone's already gone off. You can see the tyre marks from earlier on.
The grip level is just absolutely nowhere, and trying to predict it is impossible. As soon as you get wide, you get all the dust. I mean, someone can clip up my 2017 bit into the wall, and it would look quite similar to that, I think. Another long corner, going out wide. He would the track limits an excellent 5 before. No way with that. Struggling on the rear as soon as he turned it in. And you know what? At turn 6 there, it's the same direction. It's that tailwind at the top of the hill.
Yeah, but I keep looking the rear, man. It's too much.
Hamilton still has the benchmark through the final sector. Will the soft tyre hang on through the final sector? Will the temperatures be too high? Can the Ferrari perform through them?
Well, the Ferrari was pretty good through the final sector when Leclerc could stop it for that corner, which he's done here. Hamilton still has the fastest final sector, so was it that the Ferrari guys were getting it nailed earlier on? Or was it that somehow their car is delivering mechanical grip, which has always been a great strength, in that final turn? That looked great from Leclerc again, and it is. It's the best final sector, and he's once again got a margin out front.
Hamilton going nicely in the first part of the racetrack. Crucial braking zone coming his way. Into turn 12 now, left-hand side of your screen.
Looked like he was carrying plenty into 12. Just nudging wide with understeer. Oversteer into 13. The lap's starting to get away from him. What does that do to your tyre temps coming through tricky corner? Hugging the apex in really early. Different driving line there for Hamilton, just to get the car slowed and in. But hey, it's not slow.
Hey, Ferrari look really, really good. pt2 brings us to the Hungaroring here in 2026, and one of the most crucial qualifying sessions of the season, a circuit that provides very few opportunities for overtaking, but lots of opportunities to make mistakes. We saw drivers finding the limits as they went after pole position for the feature race on Sunday. Big lockups down to turn one. That's been a feature throughout the weekend so far, but it was Kushmaini who would go and take his second pole position of the season with a 128.896, just beating Rafa Camara to pole, with Noel Leon finishing in third place. Your championship leader Nicola Solov was down in seventh. Gabriele Mini second in the championship P9, putting them on the front two rows for the sprint race today. This is the day on Sprint Race Saturday where we reverse the top 10. Here's a look at the circuit for you. The only change we've had is the DRS zone coming down towards the final two corners, which has been added in for this year. And then we have DRS down to turns 1 and down to turn 2 as well. It's going to be 28 laps of racing. Then we'll have 37 laps of feature race tomorrow, where there will be a compulsory pit stop. They'll have to use both the soft and the medium tyres, but you can see the yellow sidewall medium tyres on the cars today. We're getting ready to go racing. My name's Chris McCarthy. Alongside me, Piers Pryor. Piers, Sebastian Montoya, for the third time this season, takes sprint race pole.
Yeah, he really needs to convert this one, doesn't he? He wants to make the most of his I say, fortune in qualifying. Of course, he did the job to put himself in that position to get the partial reverse grid position, but he's missed out a couple of times. The Prem has not maybe been the car to have at points this year, but Sebastian Montoya has got going to be leading the field away after a good start that he hopes he will get. Dino Beganovic there or thereabouts as well, looking to push on. The driver has had some bad luck this season and pushing himself towards it, but it was Kushmaini yesterday in qualifying. What, actually yesterday? This morning? Yesterday. We've had so many sessions, Chris, sorry. Kushmaini was the man. I mean, it's quite nice when you're a driver and you have a whole second bracket to yourself. The only driver in the 28s, just a 28.89, but still shows how much pace he had in that ART car. He was fastest in the middle sector in practice, didn't feature towards the top of the timetables after not putting sectors together, but then was able to convert that in qualifying, and he'll be looking to move forward from 10th on the grid to score some points today in the sprint race.
Absolutely so. Here's the full 22 car field for you. We'll start at the back of the grid, and it's been a really disappointing weekend for Manny Boyer. He's really struggled, had a big crash down at turn 1 on the opening day in free practice for Tony Miata next to him. Then Roman Belinsky is going to be on row 10 with Kian Shields for AIX Racing. Just ahead of that, Colton Herter, his second FP1 appearance yesterday for Cadillac. He's alongside Alex Dunn, the first time he's not qualified on the front two rows. Nico Verone is on row 8 with Emerson Fittipaldi. Nico Verone making his debut at this circuit. John Bennett is on row 7 with Ollie Gerther, who was 8th in the Spa sprint race. Then we have Rafael Villagomez next on row 6. He finished P6 in the feature race at Spa. Martinius Stenchon next to him. Took a double win in Frecker here a few years ago. Kushmaini took that second pole position. We'll start there for the feature race tomorrow. Rafa Camara next to him, third in the standings. Noel Leon comes next, back in the top 10 in quali after a couple of rounds out of it. Joshua Dirksen won the sprint race at Spa last time out. Sanapol Chapubazak is on row 3, took his first podium at Spa. Lawrence Van Hoopen, his first top 10 quali since Canada. Nicolas Solov is on row 2 with Dino Beganovic, looking to get a first win for Dams this season. And then we have Gabriele Mini, who won the Miami feature race this year. He won the F3 sprint race at Hungary in 2023. Sebastian Montoya next to him, the third time he starts on sprint race pole, looking to take his first win in Formula 2.
Looking forward to this one, Chris. I think the launch off the line and that run through turn 1, 2 and 3 is going to be the decisive factor. Overtaking not particularly easy, but another variable to throw in is the fact that we have very, very high track temperatures here today. 49 degrees and rising. 25 degrees air temperature, so a bit of a physical challenge for the drivers as well as they push these cars 2, 3, 4, sometimes nudging 5 Gs of cornering force. But looking forward to seeing how it all plays out at the start.
See Dino Beganovic, third place for him. Can he get another sprint race podium consecutively? We caught up with the top 3 after qualifying yesterday. Let's start from hearing Dino Beganovic starting P3.
managed to have a very good start, going to T1 fighting for the lead, and then take it from there.
It's hard to expect anything with that too, so I think it's you can't really predict anything. Once again, we just try to get a start, see where we are after that, try to manage our tires as best as possible, and attack whenever we have the opportunity. So it's always the same thing, let's say, but the outcome can be different, so we just do our best.
Obviously, it's going to be our third time starting from pole for the sprint race. I think in Red Bull Ring we had a really good chance of winning, and then a late virtual safety car kind of flipped it the other way. In Spa we did have some issues with the car in the sprint race that we realized later compromised our race quite a bit. But yeah, I think for this weekend I think we have a lot more potential in the car, more like Red Bull Ring, not so much like Spa. I feel a lot more confident in what we've been doing, and I think we have kind of the right idea for what we need in the race.
Sebastian Montoya just missing out on the victory at the Red Bull Ring sprint race. Since then he's not been in the points, lost out on the last lap to John Bennett. Nicholas Solov will just be looking to try and take advantage of this row 2 start. Rafa Kamara is going to be on the front row tomorrow, so for him, good opportunity to just try and extend his gap in the championship going into tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Rafa Kamara starting 9th place will probably be just trying to stay out of trouble. He knows that tomorrow he's got a few places ahead of his championship rival in Solon, so he'll be trying to just stay out of trouble in this one, because if there's any issues and penalties and then he doesn't get to finish this race, he'll have to take a penalty forward to tomorrow's race. Solon, on the other hand, he's got the gap in the he's up there in the championship, isn't he? He's got a bit of a gap to Kamara. We know he's got the pace. That's Campos car is always so strong when it comes to tyre degradation races as well, so he might be a little bit more racy at the start of this one, potentially seeing the drivers ahead of maybe Beganovic, potentially Montoya as a bit of low-hanging fruit that he thinks he can pick up in this race and potentially just give himself a bit of a points boost ahead of tomorrow's feature. There's a lot to play for in this, a lot of different tactics, a lot of different drivers having different outlooks and approaches to the race, but ultimately you can have a plan. When the lights go out, often plans go out the window.
Absolutely, that and the other driver in that top 3 in the standings, 36 points between them. Mini, 27 back from Solov in second, starts P2. This is a great opportunity to take points out of Nicholas Solov in that championship, so he will be charging down towards that first corner, looking to go straight in the lead ahead of Sebastian Montoya. This round 9 of the Formula 2 season, this your sprint race. 28 laps coming up. To the left of screen is Gabriele Mini. To the right, your pole sitter Sebastian Montoya. And we are go here at the Hungaroring. Who gets the better launch off the line? It looks like a better start for Gabriele Mini there, but they've been swamped by the drivers on row 2 and 3. And Sebastian Montoya, will he hold on to the lead? He's got Nicholas Solov trying to go to the outside, the Red Bull Junior. Oh, we've got one of the Alpine Juniors. I think that might have been Alex Dunn running wide in the background, down towards Hamilton corner now. Gabriele Mini trying to go around the outside, and Joshua Dirksen, the yellow Invicta, comes sliding wide through the second corner, down through 3. It's Montoya leading with Mini in second.
There was cars left, right and centre all the way down the field, but somehow everyone managing to get through, looked like without contact as well. 9 astern we head through turn 4, newly named Mansell. Now we've got Noel Leon having a little sniff up the inside there of Dirksen after he went wide 2, and then Stenshorn trying around the outside and absolutely getting refused.
Montoya just trying to get a little bit of a gap over Mini. The DRS zones will be active after 1 lap of racing. Nico Verone in the orange and black Van Amersfoort nearly running wide. There's Noel Leon now side by side with Joshua Dirksen making their run up towards turn 11, which is coming up here, this turn 10, now towards turn 11 now, and you can see the gap. Montoya, it may not have been the best launch off the line for either of the drivers on the front row there, but Montoya's had a very good second sector, and he's built up a gap already.
It was a good enough start to allow Montoya to place his car where he wanted, and then got a good run through 2 as well on the inside. Verone having a look on the back there, further back, looking at the back of the field. Belinsky's not had the weekend he wanted so far. He's dropped down, is now currently in last place, 22nd. Goethe in the orange MP car there, actually on paper the best driver of the returning drivers last season. 9th, 2nd and 9th he was in qualifying with sprint and feature, so he was consistently in the points. Up the inside, late move from our pole sitter Mine. He doesn't get it done and may well be under pressure from Dirksen now.
Yeah, Incha Furizaki was trying to go past in the ART there, but has dropped back, and it's a 1.5 second lead for Montoya over Mini. Is Mini just holding back and trying to play the long game in this race? We heard him speaking about that before the race. He knows it's going to be a long way to go in this one. Montoya, meanwhile, has decided to get his foot down from the off. DRS now enabled. They'll have that down to turn 12, down to turn 1 and to turn 2 as well, as we have a look from the drone of them charging up towards the chicane.
Yeah, I think you might be right there, Chris, that Mini may be thinking ahead. He knows Solov's right behind him. Either he can see him, well, he will be able to see him, the only Red Bull livery car on the grid, but also I'm sure the MP team will have been over the radio to let Mini know that his direct championship rivals had a good start and is with him. We saw, didn't we, when that battle between Mini and Solov, the championship titans, side by side it was Solov that got one over on Mini, but it was at the late race pace, wasn't it? Mini just didn't quite have the tyre, so maybe Mini's already thinking towards the end of this one, and ultimately it's only a 2-point swing position-wise between the two if they swap positions in this sprint race. However, every point counts towards the end of the season.
Lovely view here as the cars make their way towards the final corner. Points go to your top 8 in this one. You get 10 for the win, 1 point for P8, point for the fastest lap within the top 10 as well. Across the line we go one more time, and it's Gabriele Mini who sets the fastest lap of the race. So maybe was just holding back a little bit there. He's got Solov behind him, and then it's Beganovic in 4th place, Van Hoopen in 5th. Camera in P6 in the yellow Invicta there has moved forward at the start of the race.
Yeah, we're heading through turn 2 now. It's the corner that you can go inside and outside if you get a good run out of turn 1. They head uphill. Montoya still maintaining that gap at over a second and a bit, meaning he'll feel a little bit less under pressure than he would if there was DRS. The main overtaking opportunity we've seen in years gone by, down towards turn 1, which Chris Miney tried to do a few laps ago, locked up and went wide, showing us maybe the jeopardy if you don't quite get it right, and that lock-up may well hurt Miney towards the end of this race. I think things settling down because everyone knows they've got a long way to go on these tyres. Only lap 3 of 28 right now, and track temperature rising 54 degrees now, Chris.
Yeah, it really is, and Mini now starting to take chunks out of the lead of Montoya, who I think has responded to the same tactic here and is just starting to look after those tyres. Meanwhile, is Solov doing the same here? He's got Beganovic all over the back of him. Van Hoopen then next in 5th. Good to see him back qualifying in the top 10 as well. He showed really good pace at the start of the season. And then we have Camera in P6. On board we ride with Dino Beganovic coming through the final corner onto the start-finish straight now. Lap 4 of 28, so a long way to go in this race. And if you didn't watch the Formula 3 race earlier, we won't spoil the results for you, but we did see that tyre wear was a factor, and drivers towards the end of the race were starting to make big progress had they been patient throughout.
Yeah, and we saw the opposite as well. We saw drivers who were rapid at the start and then fell away towards the end as well, and that was in a shorter race with much lower track temperatures. We rode a bull with Dino Beganovic, who looked quite sedate through turn 14. We'll come back to that in a moment. As we have a look back at the start here, you can see water being ejected out the rear of Solov's car as he was stationary on the grid, such as the heat of the cars, right on the temperature limit. Then we went down towards turn 1, 3 wide. On the right-hand side of the shot, we had Van Hoopen who had to back out. Solov went to the outside, got clean out his front wing. That allowed him to get alongside the Alpine Junior, but couldn't quite have the run on the exit. Let's run a ball with Beganovic, his view from 3rd place on the grid. You can see a pretty even start actually from most of the drivers, apart from Solov. Solov was the best start the front 2 rows, along with Van Hoopen, who swallowed him up on the inside. Then up to the inside, looking for an opportunity, but Dusty you can see there. We went through turn 1. Traction, important out of 1, then side-by-side run, we went down towards turn 2. Look how dusty it is offline. Let's have a jump on board Van Hoopen.
Yeah, so Van Hoopen here, you can see that he made a good start off the line, didn't he? Now he's picking up the toe from Montoya ahead, and 3 wide at this point, Piers, going down to turn 1.
I think this shows how important the launch is, but also your positioning down towards turn 1, because Van Hoopen was actually looking for 3rd place, but then not really able to hold on to that once he went through turn 2 and 3, because he was shuffled to the outside. But that initial gap that Montoya had pulled out has been eroded by Mini. He's jumped away from Solov and towards Montoya at the front of the field. Maybe Mini deciding that a couple of laps of easy into the tyres now means he's able to push and try and get a car between himself and his direct championship rival in 3rd.
Yeah, we've got people being very patient in this race already, haven't we? Gabriele Mini now starting to close in on Montoya. I don't think that's really due to a full lack of pace from Montoya. I just think that Mini has now started to try and use the tyres a little bit more, but still a long way to go. And all of a sudden he's just dropped around half a second there, didn't he, Gabriele Mini, and has decided to just give himself a little bit more space over Montoya once again. Solov, meanwhile, with that, has now got the DRS of Gabriele Mini. Let's check back in with the pole sitter for tomorrow. Kushmaini, Rafa, it's Joshua Dirksen, isn't it, next along behind him, the second of the yellow Invictus, fighting over the last point here for 8th place.
Dirksen 2 positions down from his starting spot. Gabriele Mini in second, fell off the back of Montoya after a poor first sector, not a great middle sector.
Do you think that that's intentional?
Well, I was thinking actually that, I was about to say that almost all of these drivers, especially in the top few positions, at this stage of the race are choosing their pace. They have more. They could take more out of the tyre if they wanted to, but they're choosing to keep a bit of tyre for later in the race, because that's when it's going to be more important. But I think this lap from Mini, I don't think he would have chosen to fall that far away from Montoya at the front of the field that aggressively, and also put himself under pressure from Solov in third. So potentially a mistake that we didn't quite see from the camera shots that we had, or maybe just a couple of smaller errors combining. Interesting, when we rode on board with Paganovic a couple of laps ago on the exit of turn 40 in the last corner, we saw how patient he was on both the steering, just coaxing it into the corner. Same on the power, he was really just gently pulling the power down, no movement of the wheel on the exit of the corner. As we see in qualifying, they're impatient to get into the apex, they're impatient to get to power, because they're trying to extract all the tyre's performance in one go. Whereas at this stage of the race, they really want to just give the tyre a nice time, not slide it, not oversteer, not have a big understeer moment, not lock up, not get wheel spin, because a couple of wheel spin moments in the first few laps can literally mean tenths of a second slower on the last few laps, which can mean multiple positions lost.
This is the kind of thing the drivers do pre-season testing and on the sim all the time. Race runs, you're like, go out there for 28 laps and just try and make sure your pace towards the end of the race is very good.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris, you're completely right. These drivers and teams all use the simulators of their team's bases extensively to try and get their techniques right, to try and get the tyre preparation for qualifying, but they will also make sure that they use the Pirelli tyre in the way that it needs to get to the end of one of these feature races, because it's all about overall race time. There's no point setting the fastest lap on lap 2 if then your overall race time is going to be 10 seconds slower, because you're going to be way down the field, because 10 seconds from the lead would take you pretty much out of the top 10 at this stage.
One of the main points to that then, to just having a look, if we're going to have a move, yes we are. Kushmaini, so ART on ART here, Sanapoint Puvizak holding on as they head down to Hamilton corner. Kushmaini having another look at his teammate there, but they're all in a bit of a DRS train, aren't they, right now, all the way up to the leader, pretty much. But what are the main elements to saving the tyre throughout a race like this?
With these Pirelli tyres, it's purely about keeping the tyre, pushing the tyre so that you're not leaving lap time on the table unnecessarily, but not having any unnecessary slides. So no big wheel spin moments, no lockups, no big understeer moments. You're really coaxing the car up to the limit of grip, but not going over beyond it and going beyond the slip angle that the tyre likes, because as soon as you start scrubbing the tyre across the road, having oversteer moments and sliding the car, the temperature shoots through the roof, and then you get what they call thermal degradation, where the tyre just doesn't have the grip towards the end of a run. It falls away aggressively at the end. At the moment, it looks like we're having a bit of an ebb and flow of Mini, sort of forward to Montoya, then he dropped back to Solov, now he's back on the tail of Montoya. And if Mini can get past Montoya at this stage, I think it might help his race, because when you've got clean air, clear air, cooler air as well on the front of your car, it just helps keep those tyre temperatures down. And also when you've got clean air on the front wing, it means your front tyres slide across the road a little bit less as well. So potentially maybe seeing an attempted move from Mini, and you can see the little jink to the right there, and then a jink back to the left, says to me that Montoya feels under pressure.
Yeah, Gabriele Mini, this is the closest he has been since the start of the race, and looks to the outside, coming down towards the first corner. Montoya just cutting off any switchback moves there, and now he'll have the DRS once again down towards the second corner, and Mini is going to take it round the outside of Montoya, but Montoya defending, and now Mini right up behind him as they charge down through turn 3.
Well, I thought we were going to see a move around the outside from Gabriele Mini there. We've seen that many times. It's off camber and downhill, which means you don't need to make the apex for the best time, so there's more grip around the outside than most corners, but not this time. Gabriele Mini choosing to slot back in, but I think he's going to have another go if he can next time by, to try and again put that car of the Prema of Montoya in between himself and Solov. All the while Solov is looking at this going, Gabriele, you're burning your tyres up, I'm going to catch you later in the race.
Yeah, exactly that, and the gap is now coming to within a second, and there'll be conversations between the engineers. Exactly that from Miney, isn't it? They're just saying to him, we've got a long way to go in this race, and that's exactly what we've been talking about with Montoya and Mini, and I'm sure it's going to be the same for Mini there. He'll be speaking with the engineer, figuring out their plan for the race. Likewise, Montoya, do we attack now? Do we wait? What's the strategy going forward?
Yeah, we're only at 1/3 distance, aren't we, really, Chris? And the ART team saying to Miney, look, you don't need to attack Intra-Pubazak at this stage. In Mini feels like he's got more pace, but Intra-Pubazak is basically managing his tyres just like everyone else. So the ART team saying, look, we've got good pace, we know the car's good, you were fastest in qualifying, Intra-Pubazak was right there as well. Just wait until everyone else's tyres start to fall away, and then maybe you'll be able to utilise that pace, the underlying pace of our car, later in the race. But you so badly want to push hard. Your whole racing career, you're used to pushing on the absolute limit. You come from qualifying, which is when these drivers were last out in anger, and they were absolutely wringing the neck of these Formula 2 cars, and now you have to tiptoe them around for the start of the race in these high track temperatures. It feels like, I could pass all these cars in the next 4 laps. But if you did that, they'd all pass you back a few laps later.
This is crucial stuff for them getting ready for what is next, going all the way to the top in Formula 1. This is why these races are so crucial, particularly tomorrow, where we will have compulsory pit stops, where they'll not just be using this medium tyre, but also the soft tyre as well. Now, they don't have to pit in this race, Piers, but should we get a safety car late in the race, someone like Alex Dan will think, you know what, let's just throw the soft tyres on and see if we can come through.
Only one position to gain, so do it when you're sure to do.
Once again, good communication from the MP team to Gabriele Mini. We heard it, didn't we, in Silverstone when they were talking to Gabriele when he was in the lead and saying, you seem nervous, calm it down, you've got this. Ultimately on that day, Solov was just a bit too good and took that victory, but Gabriele tried once around turn 2, couldn't get it done. What they're saying basically is they don't want Gabriele Mini to try a half-hearted move or a move that is low percentage, because every time he does that, he takes more out of his tyres. He slows himself and Montoya down, all the while taking time out of his tyres, and allows the rest of the field to catch up. They want Gabriele Mini to get within DRS and do one decisive move, get through, and then run away from the rest of the field.
He's done another fastest lap, so I think the plan is to get past Sebastian Montoya now as quickly as possible. But Solov still there within 1.5 seconds behind, could very easily close that gap right down. This is going to be one of those races where you have to stick with us. I think it's going to be a case of who has the most tyres left towards the end, and we could see a 1.5 second gap come down within 1 or 2 laps very, very quickly. So Gabriele Mini already, I think, will be planning that move, Piers, at turn 1 if he's going to do it next time round.
Yeah, he's going to be trying to set himself up to be close enough to get DRS down this new DRS zone towards turn 12 Schumacher corner, to then keep himself close through turns 13 and 14. He'll be trying to duck out of the direct line or direct path of Montoya to get some air on his front wing so he can carry the speed through these final 2 corners and then get a good exit out of the final turn to then give himself close enough that he has to force Montoya either into a defensive move at turn 1 for a cutback, or catch Montoya off guard and actually poor exit out of the last corner. We saw Montoya run wide, thus being kicked up. This may be an opportunity for Mini.
Mini is getting closer. Will this be the lap he goes for it? No, not quite close enough, so stays behind for the time being. Here we see the ART teammates, Sanapol in Chapubazak. Really great podium finish for him the last time out, not just for him, but he talked about the amount of support he got back home from Thailand and from Alex Albon, who was the last Thai driver to get a podium at this level, and continuing his good form. It's been a good few rounds now. We've seen him right up there in the top 10.
Yeah, Sanapol Intra-Pubazak, a driver that was strong here in F3 last year as well, wasn't he? Had a good result, if I remember rightly. He won the sprint race, didn't he? So a circuit he knows and likes as well.
Yeah, and Lawrence Van Hoopen, good to see him there in 5th as well. For those of you who weren't with us last week, you might have seen the videos, even if you didn't see the race. It was a huge crash for Lawrence Van Hoopen coming through Malmedy, where he just got up on the curb and it flipped him across the circuit into the barriers. 2 big crashes for him now this season, which no doubt would have just dented his confidence, but his season overall and the atmosphere within the team, but showing he has the pace. Once again, he's up there in the top 5.
Yeah, Van Houten's been impressive at times. You know, he was right at the front of the field when he had that crash in Montreal, wasn't he? And
he's in the race.
Yeah, of course he was, and he's there or thereabouts at the moment, 5th place. We'll be picking up points in this race, and then you mentioned that crash. Unfortunately, the team having to do a big job to get a different car, I believe, set up again this weekend with only a few days' notice, and clearly whatever the Trident team have done to get that car working is working well, because he's in a points-paying opportunity today, and will also go again for another point score again tomorrow in that Trident car. Trident really taking a step forward this season, haven't they, Chris?
How far a podium would go for them. He got their first podium since 2024, and Richard Bashaw got on the podium, so this would go a huge way for him if he can come back from having a big crash like he did to then going and get a podium. Would be absolutely superb for him. But Rafa Camara still staying quiet, isn't he, since the start? Another one who I think is just waiting to the end of the race, and we talked about this in F3, didn't we, Piers? You can do more harm than good in a sprint race, and Rafa Camara in F3 was often very patient and knew that the big points come on race day.
Yeah, when you looked at last season's F3 championship, all of the damage by Camara was done in those speech races. Yeah, he did have a few decent results in sprints, but actually was far better in the feature, because that's where the big points are available. And as you mentioned, Chris, a really good way of putting it. You can do more damage to your championship challenge in a sprint.
Yeah, look at the jump. If there's been a race, there's people being in a race.
Well, in Chapubazak's defence, he's just as close to Camara as Miney is to him. So I know it's going to be frustrating for him, but Kush Miney, we were just talking about it, doesn't want to affect his chances of starting on pole position tomorrow, which is where he will currently line up. But I imagine when you're in the car like that, Piers, and you know you can go quicker, it must get frustrating.
Yeah, the language shows in there saying it's a joke. It's not because he thinks anything's unacceptable. Even though they're driving at what feels like 90% maybe at this stage, keeping the tyres in the window, they're not. You know, we're hearing they're roughly about 5 seconds a lap slower than we've seen in qualifying, which to these drivers feels sedate. But Miney, even at that pace, the adrenaline's high. They know that this is one of the races. They know that this still matters. So the language shows is maybe not how you would discuss over dinner. You know, he's frustrated that he wants to move forward. He's frustrated that he wants to go faster. He clearly feels he's got a bit more pace than his teammate Ibn Tubazak ahead. However, it would be unwise for the ART team, who are currently 2 drivers inside the top 10 scoring, 2 point scoring finishes, to then start fighting amongst each other. Because let's not forget, as much as they are teammates, every driver is on this grid for themselves. They're out there for themselves. They find their own funding to go racing, and they choose a team to race with. And it's not like in Formula 1 where you're being paid by the team to race with your teammate. You don't have to take team orders, but at the same time, if you help your teammate, sometimes it kind of helps you as well. So that's the situation they're in at the moment.
Nicholas Solov there in third. We were just following him. Lots of Bulgarian flags around the circuit. He always gets a huge amount of support wherever he goes, doesn't he, Nicholas Solov, particularly at this circuit. How impressed have you been with this season, Piers?
Yeah, Montoya looks like they are suffering now. If we do the movement, we need to commit to not destroy tires, okay?
I'll tell you what, we'll come back to that. Let's talk about what he said first.
Well, it's pretty much the same message in different words than we heard delivered to Gabriele Mini in second place on the MP team, which is basically, if you can move forward, go for it, but it needs to be decisive, and it needs to be one clean move that you pass and then get gone, because they clearly understand that these tyres are pretty tight. If you fight with someone side by side, you're hustling with them, pushing through corners, and you're going offline, getting on what is very dusty offline this weekend. We've seen dustier than we have done in previous seasons, and that's going to hurt you later in the race. You may well get the move done there and then, but then other drivers who haven't had to do jostling moves and hustle like that will then pass you easily later in the race. So it's all a bit of a game of cat and mouse at the moment. Everyone just loading their chips for a big all-in at the end.
Absolutely that. In Chapubazak, I thought he was dropping back from camera. He's sort of on the edge of losing DRS. If he does so, then Miney, no doubt, will make his move, or at least attempt to do so. And so that's something that Chapubazak has got to be careful with. Joshua Dirksen, haven't mentioned too much of him since the start, but he's still right there in P9 as well. Could get inside the points, but Montoya, as we are halfway through the race now, controlling things out front so far in this one. Would have been a very tough one for him to take as good as the podium was, to lose out the race win on the last lap, looking to become the first Colombian winner at this level since his father in 1998 when he went and won the championship that year. So this would mean a huge amount to him and the fans in Colombia.
Absolutely, it would mean a huge amount, and a huge amount to him, you know, in his confidence as well, because as much as the drivers don't like to think about it, having had 2 opportunities to go from pole and not convert them, it will weigh on Montoya. He'll want to convert this, he'll want to do everything he can. It will mean so much to him, and it maybe even allow him to take a step forward this season with confidence and continue on good results. How many times have we seen drivers just have a good qualifying and then a good race, and it really has a knock-on effect for the remainder of the season. And one driver I'm looking at, Chris, at the moment that is in a good position, Rafa Camera. He's not done a huge amount so far, looking pretty comfortable, just within DRS of Van Hoopen ahead. We know the Invicta is good around here, won the feature last year, didn't we, in the hands of 4 in a row lead. They're off the back of a great weekend as well, last time out as well. So I think Camera might well be one to watch for the end of this race, making moves towards the end. We've got a bit of AIX on AIX fighting.
We have an overtake, and Kean Shields there just locking up down towards the first corner, but through he goes on Emerson Fittipaldi. I think it's going to continue down to Hamilton corner, Piers.
Down to Hamilton outside. Can Fittipaldi get that one done? No. Kean Shields getting the move done. Locked the rears, then the front, but managed to keep it under control. And that is for the lower positions. In fact, that is for 21st and 22nd as it stands.
Kean Shields and Emerson Fittipaldi fighting away with each other. Meanwhile, is the move about to be going on for the race lead here? Sebastian Montoya certainly thinks so. He's just taken an ever so subtle, slightly defensive line there, didn't he, in towards the first corner. Now we go down to Hamilton corner. DRS open for Mini, getting closer. This is the moment, is it, where he needs to be decisive, Piers, if he's going to make this move.
Yeah, the body language of Montoya's car there down the start-finish straight will be noted by Mini. He'll note that Montoya was trying to break the toe, which says to Montoya that says to Mini that he feels the pressure up in the front. He doesn't want to be passed at this stage of the race. If you're closing up to the driver in front and you don't think you're quite close enough to make a move and they don't even flinch, it says to you, as the driver behind, this driver's confident, he's preserving his tyres, he feels like he's got the pace, he can do more if he wants. I think at this stage Montoya is probably at the limit of what he can do or what he can safely do to keep the tyres where he needs them to be to get to the end of the race. I think Mini is now going to start to unleash a bit of pace and continue to apply the pressure to force Montoya into either over-pushing or making a mistake.
Oh, a little bit wide there for Joshua Dirksen. Found himself back on the track. Meanwhile, just a few yards down the road from that, at this point on the circuit, our top 2 right together here. Montoya and Mini. Solov, you can see the gap constantly going up and down between a second to a second and a half. I think tells you what Solov's tactic is, but this is the closest Mini has been coming out the last corner. And Montoya, will he have anything in defence here? I'm not sure, because Mini is right behind him. DRS wide open to the outside. He goes towards turn 1, and Montoya just about holding on. No, locks up into the first corner. Door wide open, and Gabriele Mini steps through it to take the lead of this Formula 2 sprint race, and now will have to defend down towards Hamilton corner, and that is the race lead for MP Motorsport driver Gabriele Mini. And Sebastian Montoya will be disappointed with himself having that small lock up into turn 1.
Mini absolutely taking heed of the advice from his team. Make one move and make it decisive. He was putting the pressure on Montoya. I mentioned a lap ago, I think he's just going to try and keep the pressure on, because an easy move would be a mistake from Montoya, and Montoya defensive towards turn 1 on the dust, locked up that front right tyre and then just slid wide of the apex, which allowed good traction for Mini. Montoya's going to try and keep the pressure on to return the favour, but all of that has brought Nicolas Solov into play, and I think that's going to be the first domino that falls now with 10 laps to go.
Let's look back at this move for the lead, Chris.
Yeah, here we go. Inside Montoya, breaks late, then he just goes diagonally to the inside. That's not the line where the rubber is. Everyone in qualifying up till now has been braking on the outside of the circuit, just overshooting the corner slightly, but that was all it was required to allow Mini to come through. And now, next in the queue is Solov. Solov has seen how Mini's gone through, and he'll try and repeat it.
Good boy, keep driving clean. Good.
I think his engineer's happy. I think, to go on your phrase earlier, Piers, I think this is where the chips start going down here. Nicolas Solov is now going to be next in queue to try and make that move on Montoya, and you can see Mini driving fast there out front, just trying to put some distance between himself and Montoya. Here comes a big lunge from Nicolas Solov. It's almost a repeat of what we saw between these two at La Source, where Solov went down the inside at La Source on the final lap to take fourth away from Montoya. And now Montoya, of all people, this is the driver he does not want behind him, not just because of what we saw at Spa, but he's the championship leader.
Yeah, this is now a piranha club behind, you couldn't use a phrase that is often used in Formula 1, but I think there's a drop of blood coming, weeping from Sebastian Montoya's car, and everyone else can sense that he is prey now. Doesn't seem to have the pace, he can't stay with Minin. You just gestured to me there, Chris. A slide through turn 4 says that Montoya, fighting with the car, not only doesn't have the grip, but is also going to continue to eat away at those tyres if he pushes like he did through there.
Yeah, Nicolas Solov now all over the back of him. Dino Beganovic likewise ready to try and go with Nicolas Solov if he's to make a move next time round. Sebastian Montoya just appears to be struggling. Either that or he's just composing himself again after losing the lead of the race.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like he's got things under control. Hasn't broken DRS, but I think again he's just pushing to what he thinks the tyres can do. But every single one of these drivers in the queue, down to Solov, Beganovic, Van Hooten, Kamara, all the way down to Miney and Dirksen, they can all see the train of cars up front. They'll either have been told that Mini has gone through on Montoya, or they would have seen it. And when a driver in a queue of cars like this starts to fall backwards, once the momentum is falling backwards, it's so hard to arrest that momentum, and everyone else senses an opportunity as deep on the brakes goes Solov, and we've got side by side between the two IRTs. Miney finally finding a way through after all that frustration. I think because Inter-Pubizak dropped off the back of the group ahead, he felt he needed to go now.
Yeah, and Montoya lost the DRS down the start-finish straight that time as well. Inter-Pubizak, is he going to go around the outside of his teammate? No, Kushmani holding on to 7th place, but now there's a 3-second gap to Camera ahead. So Kushmani, it's taken a little while for him to make that move, and now he's going to have to try and close this gap, but that can happen very quickly if things start to kick off up ahead. But it's that 9/10 of a second gap I'm keeping an eye on, Piers, on the top left of screen. If Montoya goes to a second or above, then Solov can look at trying to use the DRS to get by.
I think it may only be a matter of time. I think that DRS is going to be crucial for Montoya. If we keep an eye on this ART versus ART battle, you can see they have let the rest of the field go. But this is our lead battle now. Solov actually under pressure from Beganovic at this stage. So Beganovic looking a little bit more racy. Maybe he's been keeping his tyres in good condition at this stage. Solov will not want to be losing a position here. Again, all these drivers in a queue, as soon as someone loses a position, not only will you then be on the back foot in terms of dirt on your tyres and momentum backwards, but everyone else will see you've lost a position and see you as a target.
Beganovic very close, isn't he? In 4th place, Van Hooten behind in 5th, looking to try and get on the podium. And then we have Camera, who's 3rd place in the championship. Mini 2nd, so Mini just trying to close the gap to Solov, so he'll be hoping for a bit of assistance from behind from Dino Beganovic to put more points between himself and Solov. And we pick up the Ferrari driver, Academy member now, Ferrari driver chasing Red Bull driver.
Gabriele Mini, fastest lap of the race that last lap, felt the need to open the gap a little bit. 1.7 is the gap now. Montoya will not have the advantage of DRS to keep him defending ahead.
Now, Fittipaldi has come into pit lane, so I don't know if he's got a technical issue or is he putting soft tyres on. In my ear I can hear that he is putting soft tyres on. So no safety car, but Fittipaldi is going to give it a go here in the hope that there is one. Either that or they'll be knowing what those soft tyres are going to behave like tomorrow on lower fuel.
That would be my assumption, with Fittipaldi basically being last or second last anyway. In fact, he did fall down to last after Shields overtook him, as we saw on the replay. I think they're maybe just getting an eye in for tomorrow's race. They've got 2 sets of the option softer compound tyre, so they can potentially use one just to have a bit of an idea of how it's going to behave, so they may well be able to have a better setup or better preparation for tomorrow's feature where more points are available. Look at this nose to tail. This group now is coming together, Chris. Beganovic, Van Hoopen, Camera, Mine just off the back as well, but I think that's where we're going to see some moves. Actually now, Montoya looking in his mirrors, you can see they're looking over. Solov goes for it, that's late.
Late move there from Solov and too late. Contact into Montoya there. And Montoya looks to be out of the race. And Nicholas Solov, that was a bit of a bold move in the end. And contact with Montoya. Nicholas Solov, we talked about it earlier, you can do more harm than good in these races. And we have to look back at that one and see whether that will be further investigated with penalties as well. And Nicholas Solov, well, he's certainly done more harm, hasn't he? Because he's got damage to that car, and I don't think we'll see him make it round to pit lane.
Yeah, we saw suspension damage on Montoya's car, and suspension damage, yeah, confirmed there. You can see the car not travelling straight. It's going to be a bit sketchy into turn 4. Let's have a look at this again. He was within diving range, but Montoya braked hard and braked diagonally. Solov just lit off the brakes, and I can't see that going any other way than on Solov, because Montoya didn't do a huge amount wrong here. We're actually quite a long way back, aren't we, Chris?
Yeah, huge way back. Nicholas Solov, that's just trying to be too bold. Nicholas Solov, I feel a grid penalty could be incoming for that one for tomorrow.
Yeah, that was interesting.
We've seen him do moves from quite far back this season, one being on this driver here just a week ago at Spa, and Nicholas Solov, I think, was just trying to be a little bit too ambitious there. Sebastian Montoya is going to be absolutely furious with that, because he was on for a podium finish there, and the bad luck just continues for Sebastian Montoya. And championship leader Nicholas Solov, was that necessary, you have to ask, for him? It would have come with 2 extra points, but I think he'll look back on that and feel that there was a long way to go in that race, and there's a long way to go in this championship.
Yeah, and also I think Campos are going to be furiously trying to fix this car so they can get him out in this race.
Virtual safety car, sorry to cut you off there, Piers, but they now we cannot, they're all coming into pit lane to throw on the tyres, but you can't pit under VSC, but you can pit under safety car. But interesting to see that we do have drivers coming into the pit lane regardless, so that's one to be looked at. But drivers are still coming in, but rules are you can't pit under VSC, but you can pit under the safety car. So interesting to see that some drivers have just come into pit lane.
Do we reckon that maybe some of the teams reckon because the medium tyres have gone away so much that they will be better off even with a time penalty at the end of the race with that soft tyre? That would be a big gamble. Look at the Campos team going straight to work. They are absolutely going to try and get Solov out again, because if he gets a penalty, a time penalty in this race, and he can then go out and serve it, then he might be able to not have to take a grid penalty tomorrow. Of course, we haven't had confirmation that Solov will receive a penalty, but based on the incident we've seen, I think that's largely on Nicholas Solov.
Yeah, I say so. Let's take a look at the live point standings then. You can see that it's 16 points. And this is another thing it does in terms of the championship as well. He had one of his championship rivals leading the race, so you just have to wonder, was that necessary? But there you go. Well, one thing I will say, just to clear that up, is compulsory pit stops in the feature race after 6 laps and cannot be completed under VSC. So drivers are coming in under VSC, but it's not a compulsory pit stop they need to do, so that clears that one up for you.
Yeah, car is broken, you can jump out. So that means that Solov